Hello guys and gals, welcome to another Killer Be Killed movie review. My name is Scott and today we will be reviewing the infamous French art film Irreversible. As always, I'm going to be using my same singular review format for this movie. I will first give you a semi-brief synopsis of the movie. Next I'll go into what I liked about the movie. After that I'll tell you what I didn't like about the movie. And finally I'll wrap this review up with my final thoughts about the movie and slap my numeric rating on it. So let's just get right into it. Irreversible is a 2002 French art psychological horror drama. A lot of tags involved in that, and it is written and directed by Gaspar Noé. I apologize if I am butchering that pronunciation. I'm sorry. And just another fun fact about the movie, the soundtrack was actually composed by Thomas Bangalter. Again, I apologize if I am butchering that pronunciation, who is the second half of the Daft Punk music duo. I don't know, I just thought that was interesting. So before I get into actually detailing this movie and the synopsis and all that, going into the summary, I would just like to address the elephant in the room. This movie is primarily known for its one very violent, very traumatizing rape scene halfway through the movie. I don't know exactly how long it is, but just taking a shot in the dark guess, it's about 10 minutes long. So it's very, there's no subtlety or nuance to it. It's very blunt and very forthright about its vile nature. So I just want to give kind of a forewarning, kind of like a trigger warning, and I don't mean that in like a patronizing way. If you have ever been sexually abused, or if you are very uncomfortable with watching or hearing about sexual abuse, do not watch this movie. As far as the review goes, number one, I'm trying to keep it spoiler free, but number two, I'm not gonna explain it. Basically, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to address some points with the cinematography and that aspect of that scene, but I won't go into any details. I'm not going to do that to any of you. But I just thought I should address that. Yes, that's this movie, and yes, that's part of the controversial nature of this movie. If you're someone like me who watches a lot of shock horror movies, like A Serbian Film, Cannibal Holocaust, Salo, you'll know that this movie is often grouped with those kinds of movies because of this specific scene. So, I don't know, I felt it was necessary to address this before I actually go into it and just act like, oh, everything's normal, this is just a normal movie. No, it's very controversial, so yeah. So I would just like to start off by saying, this movie I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. It's very avant-garde, and it's really, really unique and really interesting. Like I said, if you can handle a traumatizing scene, this is really, I highly suggest this movie, especially if you're a film major or if you're really interested in the intricacies of film. It's really out there. The plot is non-linear. The whole movie is played in reverse. The camera work is extremely disorienting to emit a certain physical nausea to not only the scenes, but like I said, the camera work. Like, if you don't get sick watching the film from its concepts and from, the sexual assault and the despicable nature of the movie, you will get sick from the camera work. And don't get me, that's entirely purposeful. I don't want to the camera work's disorienting, blah, 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 blah. No, I get it. It's supposed to be disorienting. It's supposed to make you feel physically sick. Which is one of the reasons why I think this movie is so important and it's so groundbreaking. And honestly, it's so great. I really like this movie. I really, really do. It's the kind of movie that's so bad that it's good. I don't know how to put it. It's like you're gonna watch it and you're gonna feel like a piece of shit. You're gonna feel disgusting after watching it, but you're still gonna go onto Netflix and give it a 5-star review. It's that kind of movie. I don't know how else to describe it, but that we'll save the rest of that stuff for the end. So right now I'm gonna actually finally get into this actual synopsis. So as I mentioned, the movie plays in reverse. So what you're going to be seeing first in the movie Well, first of all, what you're going to be seeing very, very first in the movie is kind of unrelated to the movie. It's a reference to Gaspar Noé's other movie, so it's kind of like bringing the two universes of his movies together. I have not seen the other movie that it references, but I just in case you haven't seen his movies or you're not familiar with his work, the very first 2 minutes of the movie, it's completely unrelated. But aside from that, you're seeing the ending first. You're seeing in the timeline of events, first thing you see is quote unquote the end of the movie. With that being said, it is very, very crucial that either number one, you recognize faces very well, or number two, you watch this movie a second time. There is a specific thing, I'm not going to spoil it, there's a specific event that occurs in the beginning, and you have to recognize two people's faces specifically. And later on in the movie, specifically halfway through the movie, it will tie together and completely change what you have just witnessed. I'm not going to go any deeper than that, but just either rewatch it. That's what I would suggest. I rewatched it. Or number two, recognize the faces. So, okay, aside from that, let's now dive into it. So first off, basically, rough summary of the movie. It's a guy and the girl and another guy. The girl's name, the victim of the rape scene, is Alex. There is Marcus, who is now her current boyfriend. And then there's Pierre, who is her friend and ex-boyfriend. So first quarter of the film, it's Marcus and Pierre who are tracking down and subsequently attacking the rapist who raped Alex, who again is Marcus's girlfriend and Pierre's ex-girlfriend. And so through this first quarter of the movie, the camera work is, like I said, it's nauseating. It's disorienting, it's confusing. The events unfolding in front of you is very fast, very disorienting, and very confusing, and the camera work reflects that. Like I said, it's really cool and unique, and I have not seen that before, ever, and it makes you feel like you're almost going through the same thing that these characters are going through. And once you hit about the halfway mark through this movie is when you encounter the rape scene. Like I said, I'm not going to go into details, but as far as camera work and everything, structure of the scene, everything goes, it's very brutal. Number one, it's long as hell. I don't have the exact timing, but I'm probably wrong. It's probably not 10 minutes, probably more like 5 minutes, maybe even less. But it feels like you're there for an hour. It feels like it's so brutal and so traumatizing and just so vile that it shows you hell and depravity, and it just drags on for a ridiculous amount of time. And worst part of it is there's no cinematographic tricks or anything. There's no disoriented camera, there's no cuts, there's no camera changes. It's the same camera angle in the same position for the entirety of the scene, which is a complete dichotomy from the rest of the movie. The rest of the movie, it's just all motion sickness camera, disorientation. No. For this scene, they made it a purpose to make you feel like a piece of shit human being for watching it. It feels real. The camera work makes it feel real. The lack of cuts or cinematic work, cinematic edits, there's no edits. It makes it adds to the reality of it. The acting involved of the rapist character and Alex makes it feel real. The scene, like I said, if you can't handle this kind of stuff, don't watch it. Just don't. Don't think about it. Don't bother with it. Just forget this movie if you can't emotionally handle that kind of stress. But I'm not going to go into disgusting details, but it's just extremely long in the worst possible way and extremely stagnant, if that makes any sense. I can't think of a better word than that, but stagnant and just dragging. It would encompass the feel of this scene. And then afterwards, you're starting to think, okay, things are looking up, right? The rape hasn't happened because that, like I said, movie works backwards. So after that scene goes on, there's no more violence like that, right? You're just walking along, you're thinking everything's, everything's now Happyville because you're thinking okay, so now it's time for the character development, right? It's time to learn about these characters and their relationships with each other and how they coexist in this universe. I'm sorry, I'm not describing this very well, but you get my point. You're thinking that now it's the time to emotionally connect with these characters and understand who they are as people. Yes and no. I'm not going to detail the aspects where you learn about the characters. You can watch the movie and find out by yourself. But there's one specific scene towards the end. I want to say it's in the last 15, possibly 10 minutes of the film. There's one scene in specific with Alex and her now boyfriend Marcus. And there is a thing that changes everything. I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to go into details, but you're thinking that things are looking up because you've already experienced the trauma. You've already experienced the vileness, the depravity, the disgusting bullshit of the movie. And no, you haven't. You haven't experienced it all yet. You're thinking, okay, I got through it. I trudged through this sludge, but no, there's one scene. If you were not feeling like a piece of shit yet, you're feeling like a piece of shit now. That's all I'm gonna say. It's awful. It makes you feel awful. Everything about it's awful. There's not much more I can say about that, but yeah, certain knowledge comes available that makes everything you watch it escalates it even more. That's all I can say. And then the final scene of this movie is Alex is sitting in a park kind of area reading a book called An Experiment with Time by J.W. Dunn, and Beethoven's 7th Symphony, is playing in the background. And then the camera work goes into like this crazy spiral around this like sprinkler thing with children playing around it, and the spiral of water is like shaped with the spiral of the camera around the sprinkler is like kind of shaping it to look almost like the galaxy, the cosmos, as the camera pans up and spins. And then a title card is presented in front of you that reads Le Temps der Tout. Excuse me, I do not speak French, and that translates to Time Destroys Everything, which, yeah, I mean, I'm going to get to this later about things I like about the film, but it kind of just reinforces that nature of the fact that you're watching the movie backwards makes everything worse. At first, when I watched the movie, I'm like, okay, this made everything worse in a way that made the movie worse. It's confusing, it's blah, 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 blah. But when you actually finish the movie and begin to understand what happened, you'll understand that the emotional impact of certain things that happens through the stories is much more magnified under the reverse of time situation. So something that could just be a horrible story about, a person being raped becomes even more emotionally charged as just the way the events unfold and the way you learn knowledge about these characters. Again, I'm trying not to spoil this, so I can't really go deeper into it than that. But yeah, and that's how the movie ends, kind of. The last, minute of the movie, there is this very aggressive strobe light technique that is very aggressive with very aggressive sounds behind it, and it's fucking awful. If you have epilepsy, don't watch this movie. Specifically, don't watch the last 5 minutes. Don't do it. It's so long and so aggressive, this strobe light effect with the sound in the background. I couldn't look at it anymore. I don't have any sort of sensitivity to visual stimuli or anything like that. I couldn't look at it for longer than probably 5 seconds. And don't get me wrong, I get it. It's supposed to just cap off, oh, I know you've been feeling like shit. It's like kicking someone when they're down, That's essentially what this strobe light is at the final. I don't know how long it is. It feels kind of like the rape scene. The strobe light effect feels like it goes on forever. It's probably only 30 seconds long, but it feels like you're just staring at a strobe light for 5 minutes. And just like this loud hollowness, I don't know how else to describe it, but this loud hollow sound that plays over the strobe light, it makes everything worse. It caps off the depravity with even more depravity. It's awful. It sucks. And that's pretty much all I can say about the synopsis and the summary and how the timeline unfolds and all that. So now I'm just going to go into what I like about the movie. Like is a very strange word to use for this movie. When I say like, I don't mean enjoy, I mean it had an impact on me emotionally, physically. It was a clever and interesting and smart, intelligent way to do whatever it is. I just want to make that point clear. Nothing about this movie you're gonna like. You're not gonna feel good after watching it. I'm just pointing out what I thought worked to what the movie was trying to accomplish's benefit. First off, probably the best, most standout thing about this movie is not, the infamous scene, but is actually the cinematographic work throughout the entire movie. It's so disorienting, and when it's not disorienting, it's like that scene from A Clockwork Orange. It's when they're showing him that film to like rewire his brain, and they have those hooks around his eyes keeping them open, and they're dropping saline eye wash water in his eyes to keep him from watching. It's a complete oxymoron to every single cinematic effect and cinematic technique used throughout the entire movie. And again, as I stated earlier, it's there just to make you feel worse. It's just motion sickness. It's literally motion sickness. You're gonna feel woozy and sick to your stomach and nauseous after watching it. And then the one scene, the 10, by the way, I just looked up, the rape scene is 10 minutes long. I was right the first time I said it. Feels like an hour. It feels like forever. The camera work is so stagnant, and there's no music, there's no editing, there's no sounds. It's literally just torture for the soul, basically. And yeah, just contrasting that with just the disorienting nature, especially the disorienting camera work really plays off well the first half of the movie, where you're not really sure what's going on. You're kind of trying to piece shit together. It really works well there, and then throughout the rest of the movie, it's just to add on to the nauseous, toxic nature, toxic feeling you get from watching it. Even if you are a sociopath, completely devoid of feeling, and everything that you watch, the rape, the other stuff that I can't get into because it would ruin the movie for you, even if all of that does not make you feel like a piece of shit, the camera work, the camera work will make you feel like a piece of shit. So that's probably my favorite thing about the movie. Going on to that, it's just kind of a continuation of what I said before, but I thought the rape scene was done well. Oh my god. It sounds so awful. I thought that the camera work, it's emotionally charged. That's all I'll say. It's emotionally charged. It's going to make you feel awful. And that's really all I can say about it. That's about as that's about as far as I'll go into that. After that, the thing that I pointed out that I'm not going to tell you that changes everything that you experienced towards probably the last 20, 15, 10 minutes towards the film, that thing, it changes it. It doesn't change everything, but it just adds to it. It multiplies the viciousness of this movie. It just makes it that much worse. And like I said, going back to how the movie is played in reverse, time destroys everything. Specifically that thing plays perfectly off of the reverse time non-linear, or I wouldn't even say it's non-linear, it's just backwards. It's still linear, but it's backwards linear. If that makes any sense. But the backwards nature of how it plays out, how the storyline unfolds. That one thing that happens is maximized that much when you learn about it. I'm doing such an awful job describing it, but I'm trying not to spoil stuff. So yeah, I mean, aside from that, those are probably all, they probably encompass all the good things that I have about the movie. Acting was great. I thought the casting was great. Really, the actors and actresses play their parts very well. They really lend themselves to the director's purpose with this movie, if that makes any sense. They add to the awfulness, if that makes sense. And yeah, so I guess we're going to move on to what I didn't like about the movie. Again, along with what I liked about the movie, I would like to reiterate that what I mean by what I don't like about the movie, I mean what I think doesn't lend itself well to the movie, or makes it less watchable, or stops the movie from achieving the goal that it sets out. The first 30, I don't know if it's 30 seconds, the first minute of the movie that I talked about in the very beginning of the synopsis, where it ties together the universe of one of his other movies. I don't like that. I haven't watched the movie. I guess if you're a fan of Gaspar Noé's movies, it's probably something you really like and enjoy about it. But as someone who has not watched his other movies, it's completely irrelevant to the plot, and with how specific everything unfolds and how relevant every single aspect of this movie is, and how it's just very intricately pieced together, having that kind of irrelevant beginning, number one, it doesn't really set the mood right, and number two, I think it just kind of takes away from it more than anything else. Obviously, I mean, if you like his movies and you liked his other movie, you'll be like, oh, that's so cool, they're connected, blah 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 blah. But you know, for someone like me who hasn't watched it, or who I shouldn't say I'm not a fan of his films, because this is the only film of his that I've seen, but you know what I mean. It just, on a singular basis, I mean, this isn't Star Wars, this is not Batman connecting universes, this isn't a comic book movie, it's a very emotionally charged drama, and I think even if I was a fan, or I watched his other movies, I still don't think I would agree with this decision, just because of how very emotional just this movie is singularly, you know? And plus as far as I know, there's no other references throughout the entirety of the movie to call back to what it connected to in the beginning. So as a whole, it just feels like a dumb Easter egg, but it's a too blatant Easter egg, if that makes any sense. Secondly, I'm going to kind of go on the very end of this, as opposed to the very beginning of the movie. I don't know if I'm 100% on board with the very end of the movie. Like, I love the symbolism of, the spiral and stuff like that. What I'm specifically talking about is the strobe effect. It increases the negative emotions of the movie that much, in a physical sense, much like the nausea does. So in that sense, it is a cinematic trick, and for me, it works well for me, because I don't have epilepsy, I'm not sensitive to visual stimuli, even though I couldn't really watch it all that too long, because it was giving me a freaking headache. It still made the impact on me, and that's cool and all, but I think as a whole, the pros do not outweigh the cons of it. I would rather people with epilepsy be able to enjoy the end. I would rather people who are sensitive to visual stimuli and who get headaches from stuff like that to be able to enjoy the quote-unquote enjoy. I mean, it's not enjoyable, and that's the whole point. But to be able to at least watch, to keep the watchability there. I don't know if it's really the best decision. I mean, I'm pretty conflicted on it. When I mean, I'm putting this in the what I don't like about the movie part, but I'm very divided on the issue, because I definitely see both sides of it, but I just thought I would, I don't know, throw it in there. Plus, there's not many things I don't like about this movie. So that's kind of why I threw it into this section. But yeah, those are just my thoughts on that. Other than that, I don't think I don't like anything else about this movie. There's some weird dialogue stuff that's in the movie. Specifically on the second half portion of the film with Pierre, Marcus, and Alex on the train. That's really kind of weird. I don't know if that's like a cultural thing, or if it's just weird because it's artsy. It's weird to be artsy, or just trying to kind of pressure forward that avant-garde nature of the film. That's not really something I don't like, but it's just kind of weird. I don't know. I just thought I'd mention it, because again, I don't really have much I don't like about the movie. And so yeah, we'll just that's about gonna do it for the what I don't like portion. And now on to the final thoughts. So final thoughts, I think I kind of summed it up pretty well in the past 3 sections. The movie's really emotionally charged. It's going to make you feel bad. If you're not in I wouldn't say good state of mind, because if you're in a good state of mind, you shouldn't watch this movie either. It's going to make you feel like shit. But if you're not okay with watching something that will make I don't know how to explain it, but if you're in a state of mind where you don't think you can handle something like this, don't watch it, because it's kind of I would put it akin to Dancer in the Dark, in the fact that like I said, it's so bad that it's good. It's so negatively emotionally driven, and it's going to bring a lot of sadness and despair onto you. I made the mistake of watching Dancer in the Dark when I was not in the right emotional state, and it really, I mean, I watched the movie again for the second time, and I really did enjoy it, watching it, quote unquote enjoyed watching it the second time better, but not to get off on a tangent, but I just think it's important to note that don't watch these kind of movies if you can't handle it at the time. We go through stuff, we go through mood and emotional changes, but it's important to note when you are and aren't okay for something, don't force a movie like this upon you. Number one, if you're not comfortable with this topic material, and number two, if you're just not comfortable with something as negatively portrayed, as negatively emotional as something like this or something like A Dancer in the Dark. As for the cinematographic work, I'm really not pronouncing that right, I don't think. Am I really pronouncing cinematographic? Cinematographic. I'm sorry. I don't think I'm pronouncing that right. But hopefully you understand what I mean. The visuals and the sound and the overall structure of the scenes and how everything plays out, it's great. It's very experimental, and I think it plays off itself very well, and it really just drives home the emotional aspect of the movie. So, as far as the cinematic aspect of it goes, I would give that aspect a 10 out of 10. I think it did something that, it could have been done before, I don't know, but I've never experienced anything like that before. I know there's definitely been movies done in reverse before, but like this, with the camera work that it used and the structures that it used, I've never seen anything like it before, or after it, for that fact. I think it's brilliant in its cinematic aspects and its cinematic experience. The emotional aspects are what they are. There's really not much else I can say about it. Yeah, that's really all I can't place any sort of rating on the emotional aspects. I don't even do that, so I don't know why I'm trying to rate the cinematic aspects and emotional aspects separately. Let's just slap an actual all-encompassing number on this. How about that? So I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Like I said, in the don't like portions, those two things I'm still kind of the one thing, the Easter egg / callback / whatever thing, I think should be taken out completely, and the second thing I'm kind of divided on. To be honest, I don't know how this movie can be perfect, a 10 out of 10, or even go up from a 9 out of 10, because like I said, it's so sad. And it's just so vile, honestly. Sad isn't even the right way to put it. You're going to feel like a piece of shit after watching it. I almost feel like I should give it a higher rating, but I don't know why. A 9 out of 10 is speaking to me. But either way, great movie. Great movie in its emotional impact. Great movie in its cinematic impact. It's certainly an experience. It's certainly an experience, and swim at your own risk. Tread lightly. If you're not okay with these things, don't watch it. It's not worth it if you're not okay with that kind of stuff. But if you are, definitely give it a shot. 100%. It's so good cinematically. I think it's cinematically. I don't think cinematography. I don't know. It sounds weird, doesn't it? I don't know. I'm rambling. This is pointless, but you get my point. It's a great movie in its cinematic regards. It's really crazy, and then it's an emotional roller coaster of sorts that'll just plummet you down to the depths of hell. That's really where I'm gonna wrap this up. I don't want to keep wasting your time and just kind of like going over the same stuff over and over again. You know what I mean. But yeah, so 9 out of 10. Certainly an eventful movie, certainly a great movie. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. Thank you. And I hope to see you guys in the next movie review. Alright, see ya.